Huh. It's right here on page 3.
Yeah, you're right. So we're supposed to be doing it every day?
That's what it says. Vacuum the store daily. Do we even have a vacuum cleaner?
I gotta be honest, until 2 minutes ago, I didn't even know he had an employee handbook.
Welcome to Rewind Video. I'm Bob.
I'm Rob.
And we love movies. Good ones, bad ones, old ones, new ones, movies about books, movies based on books, and everything in between.
Movies with books in them.
Yeah. So, Rob, I had an interesting experience. Just the other day, I was holding the box for Universal Soldier. Mm-hmm. It had just been returned, and I was about to throw the tape in our rewinder when I noticed something. And tell me if you were aware of this. When you open one of our plastic VHS cases, it's the same action as opening the cover of a book.
That is true. The clamshell VHS case.
Yes.
Or the DVD case.
And the tape inside is kind of like, is a story. So it's like the pages of a book. Mm. And then I picked up a Blu-ray case. And I noticed that it feels the same way, just like a smaller book.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, I thought you were going to tell me that Universal Soldier was a book first, which I think it actually might be.
Maybe.
Yeah. And also, it is rather novelistic, of course.
Oh, yeah. A grand tale. The last thing I observed is that the back of the box that we read every week is just like the summary of a book on the back of a book.
Yeah. The back of a paperback.
I feel like the similarities are pretty uncanny.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. And it's this commonality that inspired our episode for this week. You and I are trusted with the weighty task of stocking the staff recommendation shelf with movies that deserve our customers' attention. Each time we update the shelf, we adhere to a theme. And this week's theme is Based on a Book 2.
More like based on a book that's too long to read, am I right? That's why I'm watching the movie.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we've done this before. This theme.
Yes. Yeah, we're repeating a theme.
It's, shocker, there are a lot of movies based on books, so we felt like we could go back to this.
We can restock this shelf over and over again.
Over and over again, yeah. In fact, I could see us doing this theme even again, and maybe again.
Yes, maybe forever. I mean, this show goes into infinity. So.
Yeah. This was fun. This is one of those themes that I like because it opens the door to literally any genre, any era, all types of films, and I think we have that with this week's collection of movies.
One of the cool things about this topic is sometimes you'll stumble across movies that you didn't know were based on books.
Right.
And then you get to find out about the book, too.
Yeah. I
don't think any of these were a surprise on this shelf, but...
I was surprised by one of mine,
yeah,
which I didn't know was based on a book. But, yeah, the other ones I get.
Rewind Video is full of surprises.
It is, but one thing that's not a surprise is that we're just really good at picking themes, and so and movies that go with them. So, with that, I think we should just dive right into based on a book 2.
Yes,
and see what
the Two Towers.
The Two Towers. See what you've picked for our first film based on a book.
Okay, this is from 2003. It is based on a book from the 90s, though.
Oh.
It's called Runaway Jury. This is filed under Law for Dummies. Here's the back of the box. After a workplace shooting in New Orleans, a trial against the gun manufacturer pits lawyer Wendell Rohr against shady jury consultant Rankin Fitch, who uses illegal means to stack the jury with people sympathetic to the defense. But when juror Nicholas Easter and his girlfriend Marley reveal their ability to sway the jury into delivering any verdict they want, a high-stakes cat-and-mouse game begins.
Rankin Fitch and Nicholas Easter.
Yeah. Which those are names I expect in a John Grisham book.
Oh, 100%.
But man, I hate it when they put all these names on the back of the box. Like, you can get away with a little bit of it if it's like a character we know or something, but yeah, that's too many words.
Yeah.
Here's the tagline: trials are too important to be decided by juries.
Thought-provoking. I don't know that I love it as a tagline.
It is a line of dialogue in the movie, I think, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a decent tagline. You could probably spice it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't like it when they just use a line of dialogue from the movie. You're kind of spoiling that line.
Agreed.
So this is a legal thriller starring John Cusack, Rachel Weisz, Dustin Hoffman, and Gene Hackman, which is about a civil trial against this gunmaker for this mass shooting. And Cusack is this con man who has finagled his way onto the jury somehow with the intent of swaying it one way or the other, depending on which side gives him the best offer. And this is Gene Hackman's second to last movie. His last movie was Welcome to Mooseport, which was about a president who retires to his like old hometown and then runs for mayor against Ray Romano.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, which is apparently a bad movie, but I think that's a good concept. I like the concept.
Love the premise.
I think they were trying to get back to like that Dave energy from the 90s.
For sure.
In Runaway Jury, he plays this jury specialist who's like the guy on the high-priced legal team who's in charge of picking who is and isn't good for their jury. And, usually these guys are portrayed as like sitting on the sidelines and they have this like sixth sense about people and they can just tell what you're thinking, or like they'd have all the ins and outs of like the demographic tricks where it's like, well, her father is a mechanic and she has a liberal arts degree. So like we want her on the jury. You know?
Right.
So he's definitely that a little bit, but he also has all this like advanced technology as well as all this like real world we'll call it chicanery.
I feel like there was like a CBS show that was probably on for 2 seasons that dealt with somebody who did this type of thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
if there's not, I mean, the idea is sitting right there.
The grass is green.
So all this stuff that he's doing is, at best ethically dubious. Most of it's just outright illegal.
Sure.
But I gotta say, like, one of cinema's true joys is watching Gene Hackman playing this like high flying scumbag asshole.
Oh, always. Yeah, he specializes in it.
Yeah, I mean, he's just so like sharp at all times, complete asshole, dismissive of everybody.
Yeah.
But man, he's
smartest guy in the room.
He was so fucking good at that. He was. He went out at the top of his game.
Yeah.
This is like we said earlier, a John Grisham book from 1996, who was, the king of the 90s legal thriller.
For sure.
He kind of defined the genre for like a whole decade, the whole 90s. I think The Firm was 93.
Pelican Brief was not too long
Pelican
after
Brief,
that.
The Client, The Rainmaker,
Yep.
I think he had a lot more books than even those.
Yeah.
So yeah, he just cranks them out like once a year. He's one of those guys like once a year I do a legal thriller pretty much. But the market definitely cooled once we entered the 2000s. The Runaway Jury is actually the last John Grisham legal thriller that got turned into a movie.
Really?
Yeah.
How about that?
Now, I think Christmas with the Cranks came out after this, which is technically a John Grisham book tbut
not so much a legal one.
Bad movie, bad Christmas movie.
Yeah.
I don't know about the book. It's probably a bad book too. But he's still writing these books. Like, he's had 37 number one bestsellers in a row. He sold 300 million books. He's just like, he is a genre unto himself.
Pretty. Yeah.
But if you know anything about how the law works, you know that like everything in his books is just completely preposterous, and this movie is no exception. So like they're legal thrillers, yes, and he was a lawyer, but like first and foremost, these are like dumb beach books that are just trying to get you to the end.
Oh yeah.
But that's one of the reasons they sell so many copies. That's one of the reasons they translate so well to movies.
Yeah, they're brisk and they keep your attention just long enough to get to a conclusion.
If they were accurate in the legal sense, none of this would work at all.
Right,
it would just fall apart immediately.
They'd probably be a lot more boring too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is a great example of the kind of movie we don't get a lot of anymore.
No.
The mid-budget thriller, like those are pretty rare, like especially with like an A-list cast.
Right.
You know, like this. Plus, this is deep all the way down through the jury. Like, it's deep. You know, you watch, like, when they're bringing the prospective jurors in, you could tell who's going to get picked because it's like, oh, Luis Guzman is here, and like the guy from Home Alone, and the chick from Flashdance. You know,
Yes.
it's like, oh, okay, I know which ones are going to be on the jury. But like everybody in this movie is just awesome.
Yes.
So even though like so much of this plot is ridiculous. Every single person in here is just elevating this material.
Yeah, it's almost like the judicial version of a Jason Statham movie. You know?
I can see that.
Yeah.
To me, I read it as because like this definitely feels like a 90s thriller.
Yeah.
You know, it has that energy, even though it's from 2003. But to me, I read it as like the confidence of movies like this in that era, where like if this movie was made today, it would be 15 to 20 minutes longer. And that would mainly be because the characters would constantly be trying to explain why all this dumb shit is supposed to make sense. They're like, oh, well, actually, it's because of this and this. And they give some explanation, like they don't trust the audience. And like back then, it was just like, hey, Gene Hackman and Dustin Hoffman are in it. And like people are going to be into it. Like people will just like make sense of it that way. They'll be like, fine, like I'm along for the ride. Yep. You know, it's just you know, people they don't make that kind of movie. They're constantly just like explaining things,
Right,
and like apologizing for themselves. You know, and that's not the way these movies used to be.
No, and they were better for it. I think
definitely to it. So this is rated 3.3 overall in Letterboxd. 38 people have it in their 4 favorites. 18% agree with my 4-star rating.
Okay.
I bumped it up this rewatch. I just had a blast with it. You know, in honor of Gene Hackman recently dying too. Like, I don't know. I just had I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah, you know, I have this at 3 stars, but in the way that we love 3-star movies, I love this for everything that it did. And who knows, maybe it goes up to 4 in the future. But I can't disagree with anything you're saying. I had a blast. It was fun. It's great to see these actors doing this thing. So
I think if we had like four like comparable legal thrillers a year,
right.
I wouldn't be so impressed to go back to this to be like, yeah, fuck yeah, I love this movie.
Sure,
you know?
sure.
But we don't, you know, and so like it just seems like we're missing this kind of thing. And I enjoyed it. I'm going to go back to it. I think it's a great Gene Hackman performance. So I give it 4 stars, and so did Dan on Letterboxd, who says in his review, "Don't know why everyone hates jury duty. Low key seems like fun," which is something I've always kind of thought, but at the same time I know it's unrealistic. Because you don't get an interesting trial.
No.
You know, like 99.9% of jury duty is like, first of all, you just don't even get picked. You sit around all day and don't do anything.
Right.
Or like if you get into a trial, if you're lucky enough for that, it's generally like super boring and, you know, administrative and stuff.
Or it's settled right before.
It's just like, I'm sure, but like to be on a jury like this in like a real case where stuff's like, I think that would be fun as hell.
Yeah.
You know, even if it took like a week or whatever. So I'm putting this up on the shelf this week based on a book 2, The Two Towers.
One thing that I really appreciated about this is that it's full of people that have, for one reason or another, just fallen out of the spotlight. Obviously, Gene Hackman has died, but you know, you don't see Dustin Hoffman that much anymore. You don't see Rachel Weisz that much anymore. John Cusack is, I mean, still doing stuff, I guess, but like, and to get them all on screen at once, it was fun. It was a reminder that there was a different time when this type of thing happened, and these guys were big, you know, ticket selling A-listers. Yeah,
and like then nowadays, if you get a movie with A-listers in a movie like all at the same time, like a lot of times they're not even shooting at the same time. And it's like, oh, we have Hackman for 3 days and we'll shoot his scene over here, and then we have Cusack and we have him for 2.5 weeks. You know, it's just like the way they make movies now is not quite the same either, and I think that has a little bit to do with the feel.
I don't even know that we get that many ensemble casts like we used to, and maybe I'm.
We love to generalize here at Rewind Video.
I don't know. It was just fun. I had a good time with this. It was great. So good first pick.
Glad you liked it.
All right. Where are we going with my first pick?
I feel like you would know.
Yeah, right. Oh, we are going to from the not oceans, but kind of oceans section of the store. And my first film is 1998's Out of Sight. Back of the box. Jack Foley, a career bank robber, escapes from prison and ends up in a high-stakes situation involving a federal marshal, Karen Sisko. As Jack and Karen's paths cross during a daring escape, they form an unexpected connection, one that could either jeopardize their careers or offer a chance at redemption. Based on Elmore Leonard's novel, this film takes audiences on a thrilling ride filled with wit, romance, and suspense. Tagline: opposites attract.
It deserves better.
It does deserve better.
I feel like it does. Don't put anything on the front of the box.
Yeah. Out of Sight is fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. It's. We don't hear that line in the movie, which is great.
Yeah.
So yeah, doubles as a tagline. All right. So this is directed by Steven Soderbergh. And it's a blend of crime, romance, comedy. Stars George Clooney as Jack Foley. We also get Jennifer Lopez as Karen Sisko. But this is another movie with just a top to bottom great cast. Don Cheadle's here. Ving Rhames is here. Albert Brooks is here.
Luis Guzman again.
We
could have a staff recommendation show of just Luis Guzman.
Yeah, why not? I was going to mention this later, but why not now? We also get Michael Keaton reprising his role as Ray Nicolette in a small cameo here, but he played that part in Jackie Brown, which he brought to the shelf.
Second time Ray Nicolette has been on the staff recommendation
Yes, fictional character, Ray Nicolette. So yeah, a lot of cool people in this. How does it fit the theme? So, like I said, this is based on Elmore Leonard's novel, and the novel came out just 2 years prior. So it was a 1996 book, and it's a great adaptation. There's a lot that stays faithful to the narrative of the book, especially following the complex dynamics between Jack and Karen Sisko as they navigate the heist and the subsequent relationship. But of course, there are some differences too, and we have the film is condensing a lot of plot lines. I mean, that's going to happen every time we adapt a book, but especially the secondary characters arcs here, those are somewhat condensed and truncated, and we get a lot more of Jack's backstory in the book. But the book is also a little bit darker and more cynical. I feel like this movie has just a nice weight to it. It's
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I've read this. I feel like I probably have. I've read a lot of Elmore Leonard. He's one of my favorite writers.
Yeah.
But all his stuff is like, I don't know. You could say it has dark themes, but there's a lightness. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's something light on its feet about everything that he writes, even like his old westerns. Mm-hmm. You know. So I don't know. This seems right in the wheelhouse of the Elmore Leonard tone.
Yeah. I don't disagree. So this is actually one of George Clooney's favorite films on his own resume. He said, "It was the first time where I had a say, and it was the first good screenplay that I'd read where I just went, that's it. And even though it didn't do very well at the box office, we sort of tanked." He said it was a really good film. And I agree. Apparently the trunk scene, which is pivotal to this movie, was shot 45 times. None of those takes were used because apparently audiences disliked the way it was. Yeah, test audiences didn't like the way it was shot. It was shot as like one long take. Okay. And that didn't go over well. So they went back, did some reshoots, and I mean, it really works in the way that they shot it. In what appears in the film.
You need the editing.
Yeah, you need like his hand on her body, and you know. So yeah, the original long take is available as a DVD extra on the copy that we're putting on the shelf tonight. But why did I choose this? Like I said, rock star cast at the top of their game, top to bottom. Jennifer Lopez and George Clooney here have a really fantastic dynamic. Like their chemistry is fucking great, and it's, I think, uncommon in a romantic way. You know, I mean, they definitely like each other, but like the tension and friction that exists between the two of them and the roles that they play is well developed and feels real.
Yeah, it's not like a romantic comedy type relationship.
No.
I mean, she's a cop, and he's a bank robber.
Right.
She's kind of trying to catch him.
This feels very much like a dry run for Soderbergh when he reunites with Clooney and Don Cheadle just a couple years later for Ocean's 11. But that's not. I'm not trying to take anything away from this because like the direction is awesome, the dialogue is great, the pacing is pitch perfect. I think Soderbergh just does this kind of story really, really well, and I think this might be overshadowed a little bit by especially the Ocean's movies and some of the stuff that he's done later. But he's got such a big resume.
Yeah, I think people have kind of come around to consider this as like one of his best.
I hope so because I think it's up there. The plot may be a little bit predictable, but it's still fun to watch. And
yeah, it's not about the plot.
It's not about the plot. Yeah, it's not about the plot. So this averages a 3.7 on Letterboxd. I have it at 4 stars, along with 30% of other members. I was surprised that only 588 people have this on their list of 4 favorites. But
that's kind of surprising.
Maybe after tonight, that number's about to skyrocket.
Exactly.
So I've done this before. I am a big fan of Patrick Willems and his takes on film, and I plucked a review from him for this, where he said, "I'm mad there aren't at least 2 more Jack Foley, Karen Sisco movies." And I kind of agree. I'm not usually one to root for sequels to original IPs like this, but these 2 are just so fun together that I wouldn't mind seeing more of this,
And there might be more books. Like he has a tendency to place all of his books in the same universe, and characters pop in and out and through all the Detroit, Miami stories.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe the books are out there. It doesn't seem like something that would lend itself to a sequel, but I think it would work.
I mean, they set it up at the end where
it wouldn't be a traditional sequel.
No.
It would be something wacky, and it would be a little off kilter. And
maybe a road trip movie or something like that.
Yeah, probably like they're not together anymore, and he's back in jail or something, and she's got to figure out a way to get him out, and then that goes awry. And I think we're doing it right now.
I'd watch it.
Yeah.
Well, that's my first pick for movies based on a book, and it is Out of Sight.
Okay, it's totally out of sight, man. I'm going to take us back to 1977. The movie is Sorcerer. This is filed under Flop Sweat.
Ooh.
Here's the back of the box. 4 men from different parts of the globe, all hiding from their past in the same remote South American town, agree to risk their lives transporting several cases of dynamite, which is so old that it is dripping unstable nitroglycerin, across dangerous jungle terrain. Which is fine. I don't think you should have parentheses in the back of the box, but that's just
I agree.
My opinion. The tagline is kind of a repeat of what I just read. 4 men, outlaws thrown together by fate, share a fantastic adventure and risk the only thing they have left to lose.
It's a long tagline.
Yeah, that's not really a tagline.
No, 1977.
Yeah. So this is William Friedkin's follow-up to The Exorcist. This is about these 4 dudes who are about as down on their luck as possible.
Yeah.
And they found themselves in this destitute South American village, and they're willing to do pretty much anything to just basically just eat the next day.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to get along in the world. And so what they're doing for this, eventually in this movie, is they're driving this old dynamite that's on the verge of exploding at every moment across 200 miles of unmaintained jungle roads.
Rob, I couldn't help but to feel like this story is familiar.
Yes.
And reminiscent of something we've brought to the staff recommendation.
Quite reminiscent. That's related to today's topic, actually. So after the Exorcist, the expectations for this were really high. Everyone's like, he's the master of horror. What's he going to do next?
Yeah.
And this was just a giant flop. Just nobody went. And kind of just considered a huge failure for decades. It was kind of, some people chalked it up to it coming out the same weekend as Star Wars.
That did happen.
I'm sure that has part of it. It's always kind of an excuse. But I think like the Star Wars thing is actually kind of symbolic because, Star Wars is kind of the moment that Hollywood switched from like heavy themes and, like character-driven drama in favor of this high concept spectacle.
Yes.
And so like it is kind of, symbolic of them both coming out at the same time.
Yeah.
But also like, I don't think this movie was not destined for like a box office success either way. I don't think it really was. I also think the title is absolutely horrible.
It's bananas.
I mean, you hear the title Sorcerer, you're like, oh, this is about like a wizard or something, right? And I thought that for years. I'm like, oh, William Friedkin made a movie called Sorcerer.
Right after he was done The Exorcist, of course he made a Sorcerer movie.
And like it was a big failure. So like, oh, why do I even bother?
Yeah.
It's not at all what this movie is.
No.
And like you wouldn't even know what that is even from unless you're watching this movie very closely.
Very closely.
And even when you find out, you're like, what? That's the movie? That's the title of the movie?
Yeah.
But yes, this is based on the same book as Wages of Fear, which you brought to the shelf for road trips.
Yes.
So it was actually just remade again last year for, it was like a French production for Netflix.
Oh, is that right?
Apparently it's not very good.
Okay.
But so this is very much its own interpretation of that story.
Yeah.
It's not really at all, except for like the fact that they're driving these explosives across the jungle. Like it's extremely different from the 1953 movie.
Yeah.
This is kind of structured more like a novel than it is a 3-act movie.
That I think that's a good observation. Yeah.
Which I think is another reason why it didn't do well at the box office.
Yeah.
It's 25 minutes before we get to South America. We've talked about structure before. And 40 minutes before we really have any idea what these guys are doing.
Right.
Now, I think it works because of the way it's done in this movie, but it's not what people are expecting.
No, and I mean, I get that they're spending some time trying to introduce us to these guys and establish the fact that they're undesirable people, but yeah, it's definitely taking its time getting to what the movie's really about.
Right. But I gotta say, at first, I don't know how much I liked the fact that it takes so long to get to the actual road trip. But now that I've rewatched it a couple of times, I've really grown to appreciate it, how much depth it adds to these guys.
Yeah.
And it basically turns them into walking corpses. And you just watch them trying to claw back some sort of human existence.
Yeah.
I mean, they look dead for half the movie. It's just like, I don't know. I feel like it grates on you in a way that like this is a very like nerve-wracking cinematic experience.
Yes.
There's nothing easy about this trip. The weather, the terrain, the locals, the trucks are a pain in the ass. I mean, like any literal bump in the road could blow these guys to kingdom come. And I feel like, and we feel that tension every step of this trip. So Sorcerer is rated 4.2 overall on Letterboxd. 2,300 people have it in their 4 favorites, and 32% agree with my 4-star rating, including Sean Gilman, who says, jobs are the worst.
Astute observation. Unless you work at Rewind Video.
That's true. Well,
I mean,
sure.
I mean, I
Have
guess
you heard of we have to vacuum the store every day? I don't know.
Our jobs just took a turn.
Yeah. So I'm putting this up on the shelf for based on a book too, The Two Towers, one of the sweatiest movies of all time.
Great pick. I was excited to go back to a story that we've already seen told on the shelf, just in a different way. So somebody who took a different take on the same source material, that was interesting. I hadn't seen this, but I really enjoyed it and found myself just poring over information about like the production there's some really interesting stories about how this was made. And I found it fascinating that Friedkin was basically making this movie assuming that it would be a massive success in order to bankroll a
Excellent,
Bermuda Triangle movie that he was going to make.
Yeah, that would have been cool. He was making this at the same time as Apocalypse Now was being made. So I think and this movie was also just kind of like a movie that came out, nobody saw it, and then it was just kind of dismissed. But I think it was overshadowed by Apocalypse Now because like this movie was a disaster, you know.
Oh, 100%.
But like compared to Apocalypse Now, it was not. And so everyone just forgot that this one happened.
Yes. But boy, it cost a ton of money. Yeah. It ended up being like a co-production between two studios, and the studios tried to intervene on the cut. But there's a great story about how Friedkin.
You're talking about the inserts?
No.
Oh, okay.
So apparently he managed to get away with final cut on this. Uh-huh. But the studio really wanted to change some things, and he arrived at a meeting with the studio execs and brought his editor and his cinematographer with him. And his instructions to them were just, you need to stare blankly at these guys and not nod when they tell you any of their notes. And just let me do the talking. And instead of talking, he brought with him a bottle of vodka and just drank during that entire meeting, and I guess collapsed off of his chair.
What?
But managed to get away with final cut. So
I heard a story about this when they were cutting it, and they were cutting a part of them in the truck, and somebody in the studio or whatever was like, we need another shot in here to relay to the audience that like they have these many more miles to go in the trip. And Friedkin was like, well, we didn't shoot that. Like, we don't have a shot that says like this, you know, whatever on the odometer.
Sure. And
the studio was like, oh, that's fine. We'll get a second unit to go like get a studio, like get a panel. And Friedkin's like, well, no, we gotta set up the trip back down to South America. I'll have to call my crew and whatever. And the studio is like, what are you talking about? Friedkin's like, well, he's like, I don't shoot inserts. He's like, either like we get a full crew on this, or we're not doing it. And the studio is like, what are you talking about? It's like literally a 1 second shot of a panel on a truck. Friedkin was like, no, either like we go to South America and we shoot it like that, and we shoot it on location, or we're not doing it. And the studio's just like, I guess we're not doing it then, you know?
That's wild.
But it's just an insane thing. But I guess in the 70s, they were just like, directors, you know?
This movie kind of destroyed Friedkin, too, because like he just became a hermit after this. I don't think he was prepared for it to be the failure that it was. And I mean, he went on to make some other decent movies, but went away for a while and very much had the opinion that people wanted to see him fail. And I don't know if that's true, but
no, you're a madman.
This is still a good movie. I mean,
it's great. It's a reclaimed classic.
Yeah.
People have gone back to it and been like, actually, this is amazing.
Tarantino's had this at the Vista. He's a big fan. It's a great one. So glad you brought it. All right. On to my second pick. I'm going to the ScarJo's specialty section of the store, and I'll explain that in a moment. My second pick is Under the Skin from 2013. Back of the box. A mysterious woman drives around Scotland luring men into a dark, seductive trap. But as she begins to experience human emotions and desires, her purpose becomes increasingly blurred. Based on Michael Faber's novel, Under the Skin is an unsettling and hypnotic sci-fi thriller that examines humanity from an alien perspective, exploring themes of isolation, identity, and the nature of the human experience. Tagline, come to me. Pretty good.
It's all right, yeah.
Yeah. So this is directed by Jonathan Glazer, and Jonathan Glazer is a weird guy. I was first introduced to him through his music videos and some of his commercials.
Okay.
But the more times I watch this, the more I'm amazed that he was able to get away with making this movie in the way that he did, because it's fucking weird.
It's bonkers.
It's abstract. It's
you always
strange.
bring one of those to the shelf every week.
Yeah, but this one's not nearly. I mean, there's nothing going in places that it shouldn't go. Really,
a lot of boners.
There are a lot of boners. Yeah, just like raw exposed boners.
Yeah. You've been bringing a lot of full frontal nudity to the shelf.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, we get Scarlett Johansson here as an alien entity who takes on the appearance of a woman to seduce and harvest men. We don't know much more than that. We don't know why she's doing it. It's apparently something about like food, maybe.
Yeah, she has a manager.
Yeah. Somebody's in charge. Film is very minimalist, often leaving much of the story and character development to the viewer's interpretation. I like that. The movie shot primarily on location in Scotland, and we get a pretty unsettling but powerful score by a guy named Mika Levi. And Glazer's direction, known for being distinct and certainly strange. And in this film, I think he definitely delivers a world that's ambiguous, beautiful, and pretty unsettling. But this is based on a book by the same name, and the movie diverges from the book in some key ways. So both of them are definitely about an alien that's disguised as a human seducing men. But the movie leans very heavily on visual and atmospheric elements, very little dialogue.
Even some of the dialogue, most of the dialogue is heavily accented well. And,
for sure.
Scottish accents, and like it's really hard to understand what they're saying. But like I almost feel like that's part of it. Because it doesn't matter what they're saying.
Does not matter what they're saying. And there's actually, I think, an interesting explanation for that, which I'll get to. But the film omits a lot that's in the book about the backstory of the alien species, which I guess I'm interested in, but I'm also, I don't know, I'm glad we didn't get. Like, I don't need it for this story. And the ending in the film is also a little bit more open-ended than what we get in the book. But the men who were lured into the van were not actors. Jonathan Glazer had hidden cameras in the van and informed the men afterwards that they were in a movie, and of course they all signed off on it. But like none of those guys that she like brings in and who are like trying to like hit on her were actual actors. They're just real people.
Bizarre.
Yeah. And then of course there's one interesting character that comes at a pivotal point in the movie where, you know, Scarlett Johansson's character is becoming understanding the human experience a little bit more, and she engages with a guy who has neurofibromatosis. And Jonathan Glazer was insistent that they not use makeup for that role. They wanted somebody who actually had this condition. And once they found him, that storyline was kind of added to the script. But in an interview with The Guardian, to mark the start of the 2023 film festival, the artistic director for the movie said that the world premiere for this film was one of the worst screenings he's ever attended. He added that it was the only time that the audience ever booed a film and that Scarlett Johansson was almost in tears. I did make the point that this is from her specialty section of the store, and I feel that this is where she thrives, when she's either playing a computer, an alien, or a bad actress. And we get that here. We get one of those.
It's funny that because like your position is, I don't like her as an actress. Right. And at least 2 or 3 times a year, you're bringing her movies to the staff recommendation show.
It's true. But I mean, I feel like she has figured out, whether she has admitted this publicly or not, that she's great at these roles: computer, alien, or bad actress. And when she does one of those, it turns out good. So once again, I think that a good Scarlett Johansson movie. There's a lot of bad ones.
I mean, there's a lot of everyone's got bad movies.
Right. I think she's got quite a few, but I don't know. I mean, her filmography. There's one Scarlett Johansson performance that I've yet to bring to the shelf, and I will. And it is in the category of she's playing a bad actress. But it's a good movie. So we'll get to that down the road. But why did I pick this? Like I said, Jonathan Glazer has a knack for getting weird, and Under the Skin is a prime example of what he does really well. definitely a departure from traditional storytelling, leans on ambiguity rather than offering like a neat narrative. But I love that it offers a study of humanity, especially men, under the microscope of an alien creature. I think that we get this movie does a good job of giving us an outsider's perspective on the human condition. And it's a fresh take, in my opinion, on how we relate to each other and how we even destroy ourselves. Abstract, a little bit meditative, but I love this movie more and more every time I watch it. And with this rewatch, I bumped it up to 5 stars.
Wow.
But I'm curious how you felt about it.
Not quite my thing. It's a 3-star movie for me. Just a little bit too. I don't know. I want to say like too weird, but like obviously, like I bring weird stuff to the shelf. I don't know what is it about this that like what is it about the weird stuff that you bring to the shelf that's different
than the weird stuff that you bring? Yeah, we definitely have our own brands of weird.
Yeah. So I don't know. I didn't hate it, but I don't know, didn't quite click.
I understand. I would say that that's probably true for a lot of people because this only grossed $8 million against a $13 million budget. Roger Ebert was alive for this, so he offered a review, and he said he praised the film's ability to evoke visceral emotion through silence and imagery, calling it one of the most daring films in recent memory. And I plucked I plucked a movie. Yeah. Oh, I plucked a 1.5-star review by Shannon, who said, "Yeah, I'm way too dumb to understand films like this, so I'm going to go watch a Seth Rogen movie."
I mean, that could have been my review, but you know what I mean? No, but yeah, it's not. It's a 3-star movie, and you know what? I'm not dumb.
No, you're not. You're not. I feel like this just isn't your flavor of film.
Yeah, it was. I don't want to say unpleasant, but it was like I had the same kind of. I dislike it for the same reasons I dislike Crash. We're just like I don't want to be in this world.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
It's not as unpleasant as that, but it's kind of the same atmosphere.
Yeah, I found myself thinking a lot about how this movie made me feel upon this rewatch. Having seen it enough times to know what was coming. And I don't know, it borders on frightening me in a way that I want a lot of horror movies to do. And maybe the better way to describe it is that it's deeply unsettling.
I was going to say unsettling. It's more unsettling than scary.
Yeah. But
even that is only part of it, It's more just it's just kind of, I don't know, confounding.
Yeah.
And then it gets unsettling at parts.
Yeah. So it's a strange one, but worth a watch. I'm throwing it on the shelf as my second pick for Based on a Book 2.
Okay. I'm going to bring us up to the year 2023.
That just happened.
That basically yesterday.
Right.
It's farther back than we care to admit. The movie is Dark Harvest. This is filed under A Slice of Pumpkin Die.
Jesus.
I was trying for that.
That happened.
Here's the back of the box. In a small Midwestern town, a deadly annual ritual unfolds when the mythical nightmare Sawtooth Jack rises from the cornfields and challenges the town's teenage boys in a bloody battle of survival. Tagline, Evil Stalks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works. I like it.
I'm not mad at that at all.
So Dark Harvest is a independent Midwestern folk horror movie about a small town in the 60s that every year on Halloween, all the teenage boys are tasked with killing this creature called Sawtooth Jack, who emerges from the cornfields.
Yep.
This is directed by David Slade, who has some experience in horror. He's done a handful of episodes of Black Mirror.
Really?
He did a Twilight sequel, but he also has experience being on our staff recommendation shelf.
Oh, love that.
He directed 30 Days of Night, which you brought to the table for our first based on a book episode.
How about that?
Yeah, it all comes together.
Full circle.
Full circle. Circle of life. This is based on a horror novel by a guy named Norman Partridge, who basically it seems like he does horror, short stories, some novels. I think he does some other stuff. But this kind of has the feel of a young adult book gone bad, like it's like kicked up a notch. But maybe it's a little bit violent for a young adult book, but there is a touch of like scholastic books in here. Or Are You Afraid of the Dark? Or like one of those
R.L. Stein.
Yeah,
or something
that kind
like
of thing.
Yeah,
it feels a little bit like that, but a little bit more adult. And I mean that in the best way possible.
Yes.
So it just has like the vibe of like a good campfire story.
I agree. And, as a big fan of horror, I like the folk horror subgenre, but very often it takes itself extremely seriously, and you get movies like The Witch, which I hate.
Yeah.
And this is a refreshing entry into the folk horror genre. It just feels like what I'm more in the mood for when it comes to this type of thing.
It's not campy, but it is a little bit more
accessible.
A little slightly more self-aware. There's a lot of spooky imagery. The Sawtooth Jack character is, it's not complicated. It's just a corpse with a jack-o'-lantern on top.
Yes.
But it's scary. It's scary, and it's enough to understand why it's a threat. The masks that all the kids wear when they're on the hunt, those are all really cool looking.
Yeah.
Like, even if I have a hard time believing that they were commercially available in the 60s in this small town, it's just not believable.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, they look cool and I'm fine with it. I definitely have some issues with the way this town deals with Halloween and the Sawtooth Jack problem.
That's fair.
First of all, you wouldn't have to gather all the kids to the gymnasium to explain them what's happening. Like, if this happens every year, they know. They know very well. One of their several of their brothers have already been murdered,
right?
Or I guess disappeared.
Yeah.
And they would know. And plus, they starve these kids for 3 days, which okay, that could work. But I don't know. I feel like you would have to starve a teenage boy for 8 hours, 12 hours at the most before they want to murder somebody.
100%. It should not take 72 hours.
And all you'd really have to do to get them ready is just gather them together 30 minutes before it starts, hand out a bunch of caffeine and sugar and be like, hey, drink all this soda and here's some machetes.
Play a few rounds of Call of Duty.
Then it'd be like, let's go kill something. And they'd be like, fuck yeah. Play some heavy metal music.
Yes.
But no matter what, if you send all these starving, bloodthirsty kids out onto the streets with these weapons, they're definitely going to murder at least a few of themselves. That's definitely going to happen.
Right.
And accidental deaths are guaranteed, right?
I would think so. Yes.
We see that in this movie, and happen. A bunch of people get killed, they get in fights. That has to happen every year, right? There's got to be a better solution.
I would have guessed that they'd have refined their process somewhat.
Well, here's an idea. Why don't they just surround the church?
Yes, that would be a way to go.
This town needs to get their shit together. But I dig this movie. I thought it was really fun.
Yeah.
It's just a low budget horror movie. It's a 2.6 on Letterboxd. That
Really?
is way too low.
I agree. This has the vibe of. So first of all, it's not a surprise to me that this guy has directed some Black Mirror episodes. That feels right. But this has the vibe of some of those just undiscovered gems you find on Shudder from time to time. And I can't, the name is escaping me, but it reminded me a little bit of that found footage horror movie that you brought to the shelf last year or something.
Stream?
Yes.
That one? Okay,
yes. Yeah. Just in the sense that I don't know. I wouldn't have picked this up if not for the fact that you recommended it, and it was a surprisingly good time.
I like the small town with something to hide. Like that's always a good genre.
Yeah.
You know, it does like I said, it does have like it almost feels like an episode of a anthology.
Yes.
It's a really good episode of an anthology.
Yes.
Again, like Black Mirror episode. Like it does have like that kind of thing where it's like, oh, this seems like it would be a cool story of like small town horror or something, It would be great in that. And actually the book, I looked it up, I think it's only like 170 pages. So it is kind of a novella already. So it has a little bit of that feeling. 16 people have it in their 4 favorites. 27% agree with my 3-star rating. Couldn't quite kick it up to 4 this time, but maybe one day. I think it's got some flavor to it.
Yeah, but this is flirting with 4 for me. I
it's
had a
close.
good time with it.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's really way closer. That's why the 2.6 I don't get. Like it's way closer to 4 than it is to like, going to 2. So yeah, it's way too low. Gordo Flower also gave this 3 stars, and his review is, that town's pumpkin budget must be insane. Which I thought it was weird that they're all putting pumpkins out. Like, I couldn't tell if that was an offering or if they were like, are they trying to also celebrate regular Halloween at the same time that this shit is going on? That doesn't seem like it would work. So I'm putting Dark Harvest up on the staff recommendation shelf this week for based on a book 2, The Two Towers.
Love it. This was a fun watch, and I saw that it was a recommendation, and only after I started it did I remember that you had told me about this in the past, and I was glad to see it.
I figured you would like this. This seems like it's up your alley.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, I'm going back to 1984 with my final pick. And this is from the They Look Like Such Strong Hands section of the store. And my film is The Neverending Story. Back of the box synopsis. Bastian Balthazar Bucks, a shy and introverted boy, escapes into the world of a mysterious book called The Neverending Story. As he reads, he discovers a fantastical world called Fantasia, where a young warrior, Atreyu, must save the land from a destructive force called the Nothing. As Bastian becomes increasingly immersed in the book, he realizes that he holds a strange influence over the outcome of the story itself. Tagline, truly from 1984, a boy who needs a friend finds a world that needs a hero and a land beyond imagination.
That's awkward, but it's strangely appropriate.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's a lot. It's not really a tagline, but it sums things up, I think, pretty well.
Yeah.
All right, so this is apparently based on, and I say apparently because I did not know this was based on a book, but it is based on Michael Ende's 1979 novel, The Neverending Story, and it's directed by Wolfgang Peterson, the same guy that gave us Das Boot and Air Force One.
Perfect Storm.
He's also been on the shelf for Outbreak.
Yeah. Good movie.
Yeah, good movie. But this kind of became a pretty iconic film of the 80s. And
this was on heavy rotation in my house.
Likewise. Yeah. Maybe among the heaviest, I would say. You know? I mean, it's up there. It's right there with like Labyrinth and Star Wars for me. But yeah, we get a lot of interesting characters here and a chilling depiction of the Nothing, which is a force that threatens to consume Fantasia. So the film stays pretty true to the novel, especially in the depiction of Fantasia, themes of imagination. Where it's different is Bastian's kind of transformation throughout the story is a little bit more pronounced. The book delves deeper into his psychological journey and his role as the savior of Fantasia. And there's also some additional subplots around the weird characters that we encounter that are condensed in the film. But this was a co-production between Germany and the United States. And
that sounds about right. It definitely has a weird feeling to it.
It does, right?
It reminds me of the Peanut Butter Solution in so many ways.
I was thinking that upon this rewatch because I hadn't seen the Peanut Butter Solution until you recommended it, and I haven't watched this since then.
I mean, it even has like the same kind of like single dad character, and like the kid who doesn't know how to deal with that. Obviously, very different movies in a lot of ways, but like similar in so many ways. It was kind of like they both feel like weird dreams that I had.
Yes.
That like I go back and watch them as movies. I'm like, oh no, that was actually a movie that I watched 500 times when I was 10 years old.
Yes. Yeah, this was this is a really interesting film, and it was shot across Europe, including in Bavaria and the Bavarian Alps. A lot of the effects here are practical, a lot of puppetry at play, which was kind of a hallmark of 80s fantasy cinema. But why did I choose this? I mean, nostalgia is a big reason. I mean, like we just talked about, I watched this incessantly and fucking loved it. But it falls into that category of kids' movies from a certain time that they just don't make anymore, and I wish they did. We talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
But there's some heavy shit in this.
A horse dies of depression.
Right? Yeah. I mean, this is
like
the movie that taught
like
me
2
that
minutes.
Yeah, animals have feelings.
Yeah.
I didn't even consider that until I saw this.
Yeah.
And
it's a rough scene.
It's a rough
and I'm like, I can't believe I watched it 500 times when I was a kid.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I mean, it's still tough.
It's still tough.
Yeah. I mean, you feel bad for poor Artex. But yeah, there's even some frightening stuff in this. I mean, like the Nothing and Gamork and the way this world, which feels so big and wild and crazy, deteriorates.
And also death is a legitimate threat.
Death is a real threat, yeah. And then you have characters that like you like, who are like, oh, I'm going to sacrifice myself now.
Yeah.
Like the rock monster.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm giving up.
Yep.
So there's a lot of weight to this movie. But separate from that, there aren't a lot of movies that stirred my imagination quite like this did back in the day. And I still think that it does a great job of just set piece to set piece, building a world that's really imaginative and fun. And
it was a big swing, if nothing else. It's a big swing.
Yeah, it really is.
It's almost like, how did they think this would work?
Right. And it came. I think there were 2 sequels. I know I only saw one of them, and boy, that one was bad. But I love this. I mean, I think the unique mix of fantasy, imagination, even darkness makes this more than just a children's film. It really feels timeless. I mean, I don't know. Especially after having just talked about The Princess Bride last week, which felt like it's still giving me a lot as an adult. Mm-hmm. I don't get quite as much of that here, but I get enough that it's still worth watching to this day for me.
I don't think I'm quite there with you. You know what? I watched this movie, me and my siblings, we watched this movie a lot, but I'm not sure I ever loved it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like it. Like I liked going back to it. I don't know. I think there's just something maybe a little melodramatic about it that I didn't quite connect with. Like I said, it didn't stop me from like watching it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I think it was like one of those things that my siblings liked more than I did. Like back then you had one TV or whatever. Everyone didn't have their own phones. The theme song is fucking a banger.
Oh,
it's so good.
Slaps.
The score in general fucking rips.
Yeah.
It's so good. I can't even think about this movie without that song playing in my head.
Yeah.
It's just there all the time.
It's there right now for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never ending story. Yeah. I don't know. Believe it or not, I have a deep love for this. So
I understand. I mean, I wish I was there with you. I just don't think I ever quite got it.
It's a 5-star movie for me. 3,000 people have this on their list of 4 favorites. It averages a 3.6, which is probably about right for a lot of people. Yeah. When you look at the reviews on Letterboxd, you see a lot of people who are like, the title of this film feels like a threat more than it does, an invitation.
It was a little weird going back,
as
an adult, and there's so many. There's kids playing characters that are kind of adulty in a way, and there's just a weird.
I mean, Atreyu, 100%.
Atreyu, and then like the princess or whatever. I don't know, just weird. It's like even as a kid, I was like, shouldn't the princess, or shouldn't she be older?
Right.
Shouldn't these be like 18-year-olds or at least like 16 or I don't know. It just seemed like it was weird.
Instead of 12.
Yeah.
Or whatever
Yeah.
whatever they are. I did pluck a 5-star review from Danny, who touches on something we've already talked about. He said, "No fantasy film dares to be this bold anymore. Cowards." Which,
Bring it back.
yeah, can't disagree with.
Like I said, big swing.
Yeah, very big swing. So yeah, that's my third and final pick for Based on a Book 2. Which means, Rob, it's time to close the book on another episode, another staff recommendation shelf.
Already?
Yeah, went by fast. Per the usual, though, we plucked 6 films that are deserving of a watch, and this week they're all based on books. The movies we selected are Runaway Jury, Out of Sight, Sorcerer, Under the Skin, Dark Harvest, and The Neverending Story.
If you don't have time to stop into the store, you can visit us 24 hours a day at rewindvideopod.com. We're also on Letterboxd and Blue Sky, or you can send us an email at rewindvideopod@gmail.com. And don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to, and share the podcast with all of your friends who love movies.
It sounds like work, but it's not.
It's not. Talking to your friends is not work.
Yeah. Like and subscribe. I am excited about our next episode and the theme that goes with it. Once these fine films that we've plucked for tonight's episode have been fully rented, we'll switch our attention to the theme of gadgets.
Finally, trading these books for toys.
Yeah, so movies with gizmos, whatchamacallits, thingamajigs. As usual, we'll have 6 films to recommend, but if you're looking for something in the meantime, feel free to hit us up for a movie to watch, and we will see you next time.
Be kind, recommend.